The year was 1893. Chicago hummed. A city reborn from ash, it now pulsed with an almost frantic energy. The World's Columbian Exposition was its crown jewel. A dazzling white city, it rose from the marshlands, a testament to ambition and ingenuity. Millions flocked to its gates, drawn by promises of wonder, of progress, of a future bright and bold. They came from across the nation, from distant shores, their eyes wide with anticipation. The air crackled with excitement, with the scent of popcorn and the roar of new machines. It was a time of immense optimism, a belief that anything was possible in this burgeoning metropolis. Yet, beneath this shimmering surface, a darker current flowed. Chicago was a city of stark contrasts. Opulence lived alongside abject poverty. Grand boulevards gave way to shadowed alleys where desperation lingered. For every dreamer seeking fortune, there was another soul lost in the urban sprawl, vulnerable and unseen. Amidst the clamor and the celebration, a man named Herman Webster Mudgett, better known as H. Holmes, saw opportunity. He saw not the promise of the fair, but the vulnerability it created. The city's grand stage was set, and Holmes was preparing to play his horrifying part, hidden in plain sight. Herman Webster Mudgett was not born in Chicago. Born in New Hampshire in 1861, his early life remains shrouded in some mystery, though tales of cruelty to animals and a fascination with skeletons hinted at a disturbing nature. He was intelligent, undeniably so, and pursued a medical degree at the University of Michigan. He arrived in Chicago around 1886, a handsome and charismatic young man. He changed his name to Henry Howard Holmes, perhaps to escape past indiscretions or simply to reinvent himself in the bustling anonymity of the city. Holmes quickly found his footing, initially working in a pharmacy in Englewood, a neighborhood on the city's south side. With the pharmacy as his base, Holmes began to accumulate wealth through a series of increasingly audacious scams and frauds. The structure rising on West 63rd Street was more than just bricks and mortar. It was a physical manifestation of Holmes's twisted mind, a place where he could exert ultimate power over those he lured within its walls. The building that would become known as the Murder Castle was an imposing three-story structure, a monument to Holmes's dark designs. Officially, it was intended as a hotel, the World's Fair Hotel, perfectly positioned to attract the throngs of visitors descending upon Chicago. Its lower floors housed legitimate businesses, including a new pharmacy Holmes operated, a jewelry store, and other shops. These enterprises provided a veneer of respectability, a facade that concealed the sinister secrets held within the upper floors. Holmes acted as his own architect, constantly altering blueprints and issuing contradictory instructions to different teams of workers. This ensured that no one but Holmes himself fully understood the building's intricate and bizarre layout. The very architecture of the upper floors was designed for entrapment and murder. The second floor of Holmes's castle was where the true horror lay hidden. This was his private domain, a place of no escape for those unfortunate enough to be led there. Some rooms were fitted with gas pipes, allowing Holmes to asphyxiate his victims remotely. Other rooms were lined with iron plates, soundproofed with asbestos, ensuring that no scream or cry for help could ever penetrate the walls. Trapdoors were strategically placed in the floors of many rooms, leading to chutes that descended into the dark, cluttered basement. Holmes also had a peculiar affinity for stairs that led nowhere, and doors that opened onto blank walls, designed to confuse and disorient anyone unfamiliar with the layout. The castle was not just a building, it was a factory of death, meticulously engineered by its proprietor. H. Holmes possessed an uncanny ability to draw people into his orbit. He was a master of first impressions, projecting an air of intelligence, sophistication, and trustworthiness. His primary targets were often young women, many of whom came to Chicago seeking employment or adventure during the World's Fair. Holmes would place advertisements for stenographers, maids, or personal assistants, promising good wages and comfortable lodging within his grand new building, the castle. Many of his victims were employees at the businesses he established on the ground floor of the castle. He would hire them, often showering them with attention and perhaps even feigned romantic interest. He made it a condition of employment for some that they take out life insurance policies, naming him as the beneficiary. Beyond employees, Holmes also preyed upon guests who came to stay at his supposed hotel. The World's Fair brought an unprecedented number of visitors to Chicago, many desperate for accommodation. Holmes offered rooms at what seemed like reasonable rates, attracting a steady stream of transient individuals whose disappearance might go unnoticed for some time. He was adept at identifying those who were isolated without strong local connections, making them easier targets. His interactions would be smooth, reassuring, putting them at ease even as he was leading them into a meticulously prepared trap. His methods were varied, but the underlying principle was always deception, exploiting trust and desire for his own monstrous ends. The true horror of H. Holmes lay not just in his gruesome deeds, but in his profound ability to appear entirely normal, even captivating. He was, by all accounts, a handsome man, always impeccably dressed, with an educated manner of speaking, and eyes that could exude both intelligence and warmth. This facade of respectability was his most potent weapon. It disarmed those he met, lulling them into a false sense of security. He could tailor his personality to suit his audience, becoming whatever they wished to see: a successful businessman, a caring benefactor, a charming suitor. This chameleon-like ability made him incredibly dangerous. His charm was not superficial, it was a deeply ingrained tool of manipulation. He understood human desires and weaknesses, and he exploited them ruthlessly. Holmes used his persuasive abilities not only to lure victims, but also to navigate the complex world of business and finance, albeit fraudulently. He convinced suppliers to extend him credit, investors to back his schemes, and insurers to pay out on policies. His life was a continuous act of deception, played out on a grand stage. The man who built a castle of horrors was also a master architect of deceit, constructing a persona so convincing that it masked the abyss of his true self from the world until the very end. For years, H. Holmes operated with impunity. People vanished, creditors were swindled, but the chaos of growing Chicago and Holmes's cunning allowed him to evade scrutiny. Eventually, the number of disappearances connected to Holmes raised whispers. Holmes's downfall began with an insurance fraud scheme involving Benjamin Petezel. Holmes planned to fake Petezel's death for a $10,000 policy. Instead, he murdered Petezel to keep the sum. Marion Hedgepeth, a convicted train robber, played a crucial role. Holmes promised Hedgepeth a cut for recommending a crooked lawyer. When unpaid, Hedgepeth tipped off the authorities. This lead shifted Holmes from a con artist to a suspected murderer. The Pinkerton National Detective Agency was brought in by the defrauded insurance company. Detective Frank Geyer's investigation into the Petezel affair became a grim odyssey. Holmes claimed that 3 of Petezel's children, Alice, Nellie, and Howard, were traveling with him, supposedly en route to rejoin their still-alive father. Geyer, driven by a growing sense of dread, meticulously retraced Holmes's journey with the children. His search took him from Cincinnati to Indianapolis, and then to Toronto, Canada. In each city, he painstakingly gathered evidence, interviewing witnesses and piecing together the tragic fate of the Petezel children, whom Holmes had systematically murdered after killing their father. The discovery of the children's bodies was heartbreaking. In Toronto, Geyer found the remains of Alice and Nellie buried in the cellar of a rented house. Later, in Irvington, a suburb of Indianapolis, he located what was believed to be the charred remains of young Howard Petezel in a stove within another house Holmes had occupied. These discoveries transformed the case entirely. The trial of H. Holmes in Philadelphia in 1895 was a national sensation. Newspapers dubbed him the Arch-Fiend and the Monster of 63rd Street. Holmes displayed calm and manipulative charm, acting as his own counsel. Despite his efforts, the evidence against him was overwhelming. Holmes was found guilty and sentenced to death. On May 7, 1896, he was hanged at Moyamensing prison. His neck did not snap immediately, leading to a slow death by strangulation. His reign of terror was over, but his story was far from finished. The legend of H. Holmes and his murder castle grew after his death. He became one of America's first and most notorious serial killers. The diabolical ingenuity of his castle captured the public's darkest fascinations. The castle was gutted by a mysterious fire in 1895 and later demolished. H. Holmes's impact on true crime history is undeniable. His case is studied by criminologists and revisited by writers and filmmakers. Even today, the name H. Holmes evokes a visceral chill, a testament to his monstrous legacy.